Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Cannici, and welcome to another edition of Valley Sports Rewind. I am very honored today. As you can see, there's great things going on in Derby with the cross-country and track programs. But people sometimes forget about 20 or 30 years ago, there was a group of girls who kind of started the cross-country program and kind of built it to what it is today. And we're here with one of those young ladies, and Sarah Stonoha. A pleasure to have you on today. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And for those who don't know, Sarah was a member of the cross-country team from 1990 to 1993 and a member of the track team from 1991 to 1994. Sarah, first off, let me ask you, back then there were no running clubs around in Derby. I know your brother Steve was very into baseball. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, when did you start to like running? I mean, when did you get involved?
Well, it's funny you asked me that. My father actually ran for Derby cross country and track in the late 60s, early 70s. And he used to tease me growing up that he would run a 4:42 mile. And he's like, let's see what you can do when you get up to high school. I briefly moved to California for 1 year. And in gym, they made us do the mile. And I kind of said to myself, ooh, I like this running thing. And then I came back to Derby in 8th grade, and there was a middle school invitational, I remember. And I ended up placing second behind Melissa Donia, and Christine Soda was right behind me. And that was something new that they had because, like you said, there wasn't any formulated running clubs. So after that, I decided, let's try this cross-country thing out.
Right. So let me ask you, basically you kind of did it because your dad was bragging a little bit about how he could do and stuff like that. Now, let me ask you, you were in 8th grade, correct, when you started,
Yeah.
Back then, a lot of kids aren't motivated to run, Kids don't like to run in basketball practice or football, whatever the case may be, softball. How did you get motivated, though? Like, the first day you practiced, did you want to quit after that, or did you want to go back?
It takes a certain type of person to run, and you do have to have that mindset. It's not an easy thing to do. It's very intense as far as pushing yourself. I always had that drive growing up with my two brothers who were very competitive through the household, that I had that drive, that competitive drive to push me further than I thought I could. And I was always a tomboyish kind of girl that I said to myself, you know what? I don't want to do something easy. I want to push myself, see how far I can get. And, that's why I decided to try it out. And, in the middle of races, you want to just say, screw this, give up.
Yeah.
But I always had the ability to, like I said, flip a switch and say, you know what, I'm going to push through this and I'm going to beat that girl ahead of me.
Right.
So it does take that certain type of person and that certain type of drive to have it. And I think it's somewhat innate too. It just doesn't come from...
Right.
And, some people have natural talent, obviously, and they can just push through. But for me, I had to work really hard and have that mindset, like, I'm going to do it and push through it.
Right. So let me ask you this. You mentioned Melissa Donia, Christine Soda. But let me ask you, who was your coach at the time? I believe at the time it was probably Gene Warren, right? He was kind of letting you guys come to practice and help out, and probably Muzz as well.
Muzz was there.
Right.
He took over the girls by the time I had gotten there.
Right.
But
this was track, correct?
Oh.
In 8th grade or was it cross country?
It was cross country.
Oh, so Muzz was there.
Muzz was there. Yep, Muzz was there.
Do you remember your first workout, though, that he gave you for an 8th grader? Was it tough? Because we're going to get to the Muzz workouts in a minute.
Muzz workouts. That's going to be fun. I'm going to have PTSD. No, actually, I had no formal training for that race. I went in there cold turkey,
Oh,
into
wow.
that invitational with no Muzz training, no nothing. Just saying, you know what, I'm going to try this out. I want to do this.
Right.
So, yeah, for that 8th grade invitational, I had nothing.
Really?
Nothing.
So you kind of just did it on the fly, huh?
Yeah, I did. I did it on the fly.
Right.
So then, with the success of that, it gave me confidence to keep, pushing myself.
Now, was that the only meet you ran that year?
It was in 8th grade.
Right.
It was the only one.
So
only one.
I think they were trying to establish a younger program for younger boys and girls, but they just probably didn't have the funds too, which doesn't help.
And I believe the cross country girl team was only a couple years old at that point.
Right. Yeah. 1988.
Yeah.
I think.
So, and I ran this invitational in 89, 90, somewhere in that,
right.
before my freshman year, obviously.
Now, did you say to yourself after that race, though, I will come out for the team freshman year?
Yes.
So you had that mindset.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I absolutely did. And I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it.
So let me ask you, that summer going into your freshman year, because Muzz is big on telling them what to do during the summer to get themselves in shape.
Yes.
But let me ask you, for as much as you worked out in the summer, I bet it still didn't prepare you for what was ahead in the fall with his workouts, correct?
Oh, absolutely not.
Right.
He was funny. He started out the freshmen doing what we called the dog pound route.
Right.
Which was just a short, trail out to
it was like
the
a
high school.
1-6, I believe,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Out the high school driveway, down Coon Hollow Road, turned around at the dog pound, and then you made your way back. And I think he didn't want to scare us too much, but then by the end of the week, every muscle in my body was like spasming, and I'm like, okay, this guy's for real. Softball Hills, Nutmeg Hill, let's go, girls.
And he was the type of guy, too, that he would drive around in his car to make sure you weren't goofing off, correct?
Oh, my. Yes, absolutely. I mean, and at one point, we had our long days where we would run up into Seymour. And you're right, Mike. He would be beep, beep in his car, keeping us going. All right, keep on going.
Right.
Muzz also played a big part in keeping that drive in me alive.
Right.
He would do some, techniques where he would play us a song, a motivational song, have us close our eyes and envision us in the race.
Oh, yeah, he definitely.
And it helped. He was awesome at that, and it kept me going.
Right. Now, a lot of times what I've heard when you first start running for Muzz, a lot of people say, oh, I hate him. He's just so rough and stuff. Let me ask you, as a young kid, did you find yourself hating him after practice, or did you understand what he was trying to do?
It was tough because as a teenager, you want to be doing something else.
Right.
So when a coach is kind of pushing you to that level,
right,
you want to kind of just be like, I don't want to do this.
Right.
And
he really didn't have an assistant coach back then, right?
It was just Muzz.
Right.
Just Muzz. He used to drive us mad. He was so involved in this running thing and taking all these stats from these different teams and pushing us. We used to be like, Muzz, can we get out of practice already? This is too much.
Right.
But you know what? As an adult, I appreciate that so much because it's given me a toughness as an adult through life that, you know what? You got to keep pushing and you got to keep doing this. And Muzz had a big part in that.
Right. Now, let me ask you, there were very few freshmen, I think, on that team. I know Penny Weiss eventually, and we'll get to her. She
Penny
ran
Weiss.
With you. Did she run freshman year with you?
She ran sophomore year because she was at Sacred Heart at the time, high school.
So were you pretty much the only freshman on that squad that year?
No, we had Robin Marmina run.
Yeah.
And I believe Michelle Green.
Okay. So it always helps to have people you know.
Yes.
Kind of takes the load
off. Yes. And at my freshman year, I was in that 7 spot, that last varsity spot. And it was a nice way to kind of ease myself into moving up in the lineup as a freshman running varsity and getting a taste of it early on. I was hard on myself, though. I always wanted to be better. I know I wasn't always the fastest. I don't have a long stride. I'm not blessed with too much height. And I had to work hard, but it was nice as a freshman to get a taste of, the big dogs.
Right.
And so that made the transition easier as I moved along.
And if I'm not mistaken, that freshman year, that was a good team, correct? I mean, didn't you
we
girls
were.
really do good?
Kelly Byram, Heather Kovacs, April Mamina.
And a lot of these girls, too, what people don't realize is for you, this was your sport. For some of them, it was their sport. But you mentioned Heather and stuff. Some of these girls, it was to stay fresh for softball or to stay fresh for basketball. Yes. And yet, with that said, these girls all brought out the best in each other, and it was really a good season.
Absolutely. I enjoyed my freshman year tremendously because there were girls that I could look up to and also girls that I could cheer on that were doing JV at the time. And we were a tight group. And again, Muzz played a big role in that. He wanted a team feeling. He wanted that, that push to bring us together to do well. I mean, he taught us techniques that in the middle of a race to work together to psych out the other team. I mean, he was all psychological and got us in there. And we did a sandwich technique that he always used to teach us, and it worked.
Right. So talk about your first meet that you ever ran for cross country as a freshman. Was it hard? Did you enjoy it, or
I believe it was Wyndham.
Right.
And I did enjoy it, but I remember there were just so many runners. I was like surrounded in this big mob, and I'm like, oh gosh, what am I going to do?
Right.
And I remember just kind of we had to go through this trail because cross country specifically, some of the courses, they have you go down narrow paths up in fields and up in grass, and you don't know what to do, where to go. And I remember feeling that in my first race, like, oh my God, there's all these people, I don't know where to go. But I got quickly, right from the start, got bombarded and started getting pushed. I'm like, this is not happening.
Right.
So I started getting the groove midway. And then at the end, I was obviously just like, okay, I did it. It was tough, but I'm going to do it again.
Right.
So I remember feeling really, really worn at the end of it.
Right. So it was definitely a positive thing, the first meet.
Correct? It was.
Right.
It was. And I finished probably in the middle of the pack of that huge group of girls that were running. So it was good.
So let me ask you this. You did track as well, but did you do track more to stay fresh for cross country? Did you enjoy track? Because the difference between both, there's a huge difference.
There is a huge difference.
I always found running on a track, it bored me. Like to this day, I can't go on a track. I have to run on the road. Let me ask you, did you enjoy track or was it tough?
I don't think, like you, I enjoyed track as much. I also thought, oh gosh, another lap. Oh gosh, another lap.
And he kind of worked his runners too. Like it was cross country as well. So, he definitely did.
Because, Muzz always used to have me in track do the 2-miler.
Yeah.
So again, repetitive, around.
Yeah.
But I liked running so much, Mike, that it didn't matter. I while it kept me in shape for the upcoming cross country season, I just liked it. I liked being part of a team, and coming from Derby, where we take pride in our athletics, and I like I said before, my two brothers, coming from them, always competitive, and being part of a team was very important. Both my mother and father drilled that in us to be part of something. So, I wasn't into the softball thing. So the only thing for girls at the time, actually, I ran with, the first time I ran track was with mainly all the guys, because there was very few of us that did it.
Right.
And that's how I, kept on going.
Right. So explain to me, explain the difference between the mile and the 2-mile for you as a runner, because the mile, you can't start off fast, but you have to build some type of rhythm in order to stay in the race. The 2 miles tricky too, because you gotta that last mile, you really have to pick it up. So tell me the difference between the two and which one did you enjoy more?
I actually, psychologically, I liked the mile better than the 2, because going into the 2 miler, 8 laps, oh my gosh.
Right.
But I ran the 2 miler better. I might as well
Right.
tell you that. 7 days to Sunday, I ran that 2 miler better. The mile, you have to start out with a pace. You don't want to burn yourself out real fast, but by that second lap, you really have to kick it in.
Right.
Where the 2 miler, you have a little bit more time to work with. You get to see your field a little bit more and see where everyone's at. And then that last mile, you just have to kick it, like you said, into high gear.
Right.
And I looking back on it, I probably, if you gave me a choice of which one to run today, I would pick the 2 miler.
Right.
Absolutely.
We talked about Muzz's, workouts and stuff. One of the things that he did for a workout that I would think had to drive you nuts as a runner was those half-mile repeats. Sometimes there'd be 9 or 10 of them. Talk about those type of days, and how did you dread going to practice those days?
Absolutely. Absolutely. By the end of my freshman year, I knew Muzz's routine, and I knew when we were going to have long days, when we were going to have short days, when we were going to have, those fast workouts.
Right.
I tell you, when he took us down to those tracks and half mile, 30 seconds, get on the line again, half mile, 30-second rest. I wanted to just go over to him, put my hands around his neck and say, stop, please stop.
Yeah.
But you know what? It built a toughness in me.
Right.
It built a toughness in me that I still carry through today in everything I do. I'm tough. I'm tough, and that's part of how I became tough.
Right. So let's talk about sophomore year now of cross country. And now, I was going to get into her, Pennywise. She was a very close friend of yours. And you two really, if I remember, were the only 2 distance runners for track.
Yes,
that
we
ran
were.
for girls.
We
so
were.
You two were always together. And one of the things I noticed that you had to do with her is you kind of had to be the one to calm her down, because she was very hard on herself.
She was.
She was a very cranky runner because,
she was.
She wanted to be the best.
We used to call, if Penny listens to this, we used to call her the whiner.
Yeah.
And I used to have to, like you said, kind of calm her down and say, you can do this. Because she was very good.
Right.
She was very, very good.
She was very hard on herself.
I don't think she gave herself enough credit.
Right.
And like I said, that's where the team comes into play. You really, really, really need to keep your teammates motivated and to keep it going, because everybody's part of it. Everybody. And everybody's got to keep everybody else going.
Right. So talk about that sophomore season. Now you're a sophomore. You're no longer the new kid on the block.
No.
And I believe that was another decent year for the team. That was 91, I believe.
Yeah. We still had April Romina at the front.
So, I mean, talk about you as an individual. How do you think you did that sophomore season? Were you satisfied, or did you?
I was very, very satisfied with my improvements.
Right.
From my freshman year to my sophomore year. That year, actually, by the end of my sophomore year, I got most improved runner with Michelle Green.
Right.
So I had gotten into a very good rhythm my sophomore year.
Right.
And I, moved up. I used to place between the 5th and 6th runner. So I was happy, and I had gotten used to the Muzz.
Right.
And all that he entails. And so I was happy. I was happy.
And, one of the things, too, with cross country and track is, in other sports, it's hard to stay injury-free all year. But in cross country and track, it's difficult because guess what? When you're running like that all the time, there's always a better chance to pull something or to hurt something. So how important was it for you to make sure you stretched the right way, did your warm-ups the right way, and how difficult was it to stay healthy throughout it all?
Well, we did at least a good 25 minutes to 30 minutes stretching every single part of our bodies, because it's so easy to just go and tear something. It's very simple. So stretching was a huge part. And before every race, we would do a warm-up where we would ease into it very easily and do just like a slow little jog and just kind of get everything loosened up before we really hit that, that go time. And it was helpful to keep us healthy. And, my senior year, I won't get to it, but my senior year, I was plagued with injury during cross-country season, which I didn't even get to run in my last meet in cross-country because, you can get hurt, even in practice.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a slouch during practice. I was going full force even at practice because I was a firm believer, and my family's always a firm believer. You play how you practice.
Right.
So I was going. So stretching's very important, yes.
Right. And now talk about track a little bit. Now you're a sophomore.
Yeah.
You're getting a little used to running on the track. How was track season? I know that would be Coach Warin's last year, but you really dealt more with Coach Muzz.
I did.
He was the distance coach.
And he dealt with us girls mostly.
Right. So how was that season for you as a sophomore? Did you feel like you improved a lot in track as well?
Yes. I felt like I improved a lot my sophomore year, and it was nice to see more girls come on at that point.
Right.
So I didn't feel like, because that first year was tough. I felt like, am I supposed to be running with the boys? I don't know about that, kind of thing. But as more girls came on, I felt more comfortable. Like I said, we did different workouts for track than cross country, and I felt better that I was improving throughout my sophomore year, and it was a good year. It was a good year.
Right. And one of the things about a distance runner in track that is it differs from a sprinter and stuff. And this is not to take anything away from a sprinter, but it's a lot easier to qualify for states as a sprinter than it is a distance runner because, I think the half mile back then, you had to get like a 140 or something like that to qualify. The 2 mile, I believe it had to be like 11 something.
Yeah.
You had to get, and that's not easy because you really have to build endurance. You really have to at some point go faster, and then it's tough. So did you ever say to yourself, I'm not going to worry about qualifying, I'm just going to worry about getting better with my times, because qualifying is difficult?
I think in my early years I didn't think about qualifying because I didn't think I was expected to, but I would try to, but it wasn't in the forefront of my mind. I think junior and senior year is where I really started to think, oh gosh, I really want to qualify. But you bring up a good point. Those distance races are really difficult to qualify for. You have to be the top of your game.
Right.
And, any given day, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
It's just hard.
And not to make excuses, but one of the difficult things, too, when you're running on a track is you go to different schools. You don't know what their tracks are going to be like. I remember I could not stand running on Sheehan's track. It was the worst. Emmett's track was awesome. So, you run on that. And even Shelton's was very good. Yeah. But there are sometimes you're running on like tar, which it felt like anyway. And Derby didn't have the best track. So if you ran like a similar track that Derby had with the rocks and the pebbles, it's not easy to run. And that kind of screws you up a little bit too.
Yeah, the terrain is definitely different from school to school, but I think Derby didn't have always the best in both cross country and track. So I think in most cases, and I also did not like Sheehan, it prepared us to run on not so great things. So we trained on not such optimal, terrain. So it kind of gave us a leg up as far as going to different schools and seeing what they had to offer for terrain. But yeah.
So now junior year comes across country, and I believe that year Muzz took over the boys program as well.
Yes, he took over both of us.
One of the things that I loved about track, I played football and basketball, and you couldn't really have fun on the bus rides. Football, they made you silent on there. You couldn't talk. Basketball, the team was always losing, so that wasn't fun. But track's the one sport, especially bus rides there, bus rides home and stuff. The kids really bond with one another because you're with each other all the time. And especially if there's downtime between a meet, most of the time you're hanging out with each other because you're waiting for the meet to start. So you really get to know one another. Just talk about that a little bit and how cool that was.
I have had some of my best friends being made through cross country and track. And Muzz used to like to stay for, if our race started at 8 a.m. and there were other races behind us, he would have us stay so he can get his little notebook out and write down everybody's time from every other school.
Yeah.
So it gave us, the boys and the girls, time to really bond with each other because, Muzz wanted to keep his little notebook and we had all this downtime and togetherness and we really got to know each other. Right. And I could bump into Eddie, Solace, Tuberville, like any of them.
Yeah.
Billy Ronsky.
Right. Yeah.
I could go on and on and on with the names of the boys and the girls. Christine Froley, Holly Coomer. I could bump into them today, give them a giant hug, and it'd be like we'd be talking like it was yesterday. And you don't get that in every sport. No, you don't. And again, it was Muzz kind of bringing us together and giving us the opportunity to kind of bond.
Right.
So I enjoyed every second of it. Every second of it.
Right. So let me ask you this, because I always was curious about this. In track, most of the time the weather is hot. Mm-hmm. Occasionally you'll get a cool day. But in cross country, you start out the year where it's semi-hot, the weather's not bad, but you end and it's kind of cold. So how difficult is that to adjust as a runner when, it starts to cool up?
On a personal level, I found it tremendously difficult.
When it was cold.
It was cold. Right. We're up there at Wickham Park, and it's like 30 degrees, and they're like, okay, line up for your race. And I could barely breathe in there. You could see the air coming out of your mouth, and it's like, whoa. Right. When we started the season, it was the end of summer. And, it was rough. I did not handle the cold weather very well. Right. At all. It was a hard adjustment for me personally. And
how was Penny running in cold weather?
Yeah, I'll skip that question. I plead the fifth.
Right. So how would you say now you're a junior, you're you're one of the leaders now for all intents purposes. Yes. A good junior year for you? Did you feel like you got better again?
Good junior year. I had an excellent All Valley meet, and I actually made second team All Valley that year.
Right.
In Shelton. I believe the meet was in Shelton. I was happy. Right. I still wasn't the leader. Christine Froley was our number one then. I felt good. And I felt like I was thinking about senior year and moving forward and taking over the team with Penny.
Right.
By the end of that year. And I felt like confident that I, had the capability to kind of bring everybody together to do that.
Right.
So it was good. It was a good junior year.
Right. So let me ask you this. In between cross country and track, it's obviously the winter.
Yes.
You can't run on a track. Did you kind of take it easy during the winter, or did you try to run as much as you could, like in a gym somewhere? Or?
We ran the hallways at Derby High School.
Right.
Through the winter. I would get tremendous shin splints from doing that.
Yes.
Because it's hard floor. But yeah, we used to use the inside of the high school. Go up, down, and all around, running around. Yeah. We did that multiple times during the winter. Multiple times.
Right. So junior year of track, Buster Jadek takes over the program. Muzz is still there as an assistant, and you had a great junior year in track that year. Yeah. You and Penny both, I believe. And you were the only two distance runners.
Yes, again.
So, you two would run. And the team got so much better that year. They went from, I think, 1 win the year before to about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So just talk about junior season of track, because you really had a great year that year.
I did, and my mile improved junior year. Penny and I, did well. We were excited because we had, again, more girls. Diane Paque joined us then. Yeah. So, it was an exciting time for the boys and the girls.
Marisha Bravo was running as well.
Yeah, right. We had her. Jamal Baskins was, doing really well for himself.
Right.
We had both Paques on the team. It was really exciting. It was really exciting to see everybody do well. But for Penny and I think our goal was just to get better every meet and try to get some wins under our belt at that point. Because I think, like I said to you before, I really didn't put much pressure on myself until junior and senior year to like really let's do this.
Right. What is the most difficult thing? I mean, what I used to hate when I was running track too is if I did like the 5,000 run and that's like, 12 laps, 3 miles. When that guy says 11 to go as you're coming around, how difficult is that when you're running the 2 mile and you've just done 1 lap and he says 7 to go? I mean, is it frustrating sometimes? I mean, you like running, but at the same time, it's like a battle.
It is a battle. I hated it.
Right.
It was like, I got 7 more of these to go. Are you kidding me?
Right.
That's where you have to, as a runner, just put that in the back of your mind and just flip that switch and do it. And just suck it up, buttercup. You're doing it. You just keep focused. You got to keep focused on what's ahead of you and the task ahead of you. And just know that it will come to an end, but you have to try your best. You're representing your school. That's how I thought, you know what? I'm representing Derby. I'm not going to back out of this.
Right.
It's not going to happen. I'm representing Derby. We push through it.
Right. So now senior year cross country, you're elected captain,
yes.
I believe. To me, in any sport you play, that's an honor when somebody tells you you've been elected captain.
Yes.
Because to be elected captain, I think a couple things have to play into it. Number one, you have to be good at what you do. Mm-hmm. But number two, it shows obviously somebody was paying attention and said this one leads by example and stuff like that. So how happy were you when Coach Muzz told you were elected captain?
I was over the moon that he thought that much of me to do that. But I used to tease him all the time. Even as a freshman, I would tell him, Muzz, I was built for running. And you watch, someday I'm going to be your captain. Even in my younger days, so maybe I played a mind game on the Muzz, really from early on. But I was completely honored. It's an honor. Like you said, if you're voted in captain, that means somebody saw something in you. And, you take pride in that.
Right. Senior year, it's your final year.
Yes.
Number one, did you feel like it went so fast? I mean...
senior year went the fastest. Right. In my opinion, it just flew by. It flew by.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know the boys struggled that year, but how'd the girls do that year? Did you girls have a decent record? Or
we did not. We had a lot of young ones coming up through the rankings, and a lot of the runners that I had run with in the past years opted not to run. The Michelle Greens, Robin Marmina didn't run.
Yeah.
So we lost quite a bit, and then I got injured. So it was a rough cross-country season my senior year. But that being said, we still had a lot of people behind us, Marisha Bravo, running that, kept kind of the fire going, like, no, we can do this, we can push through it. Right. So it was good to see the younger ones kind of step up at that point to push us through.
Right. Now, were you able to run in the Hoosie meet that year? Or?
No, and the thing is I got injured, and then I started to work my way back right before states. I was hustling real hard, working it, and it was about 2 days before the states. Muzz had us go run through Osborndale.
Right.
And I'm gonna say her name again. Penny and I were leading the pack through the trail, and she stopped and she was complaining about something. I don't remember what it was. And I said, let's just do this. We have to finish and push through. Like, come on. Come on, we can do it kind of thing. Right. And I started to run again because we had come to a complete stop and kind of got into it a little bit. Started to run again. Was not paying attention to my footing. Right. There was an ingrown tree branch across the trail. Didn't see it. I literally got my foot completely caught. My ankle twisted completely onto the other side. I went down like a sack of potatoes. And then the girls behind me, I fell so quick, just trampled over me. Oh, it was a nightmare. I remember Matt Bradshaw was helping Muzz coach at the time. He had to come up and actually literally carry me out of the woods because I couldn't even walk.
Oh, man.
And that was 2 days before Wickham Park at States. And I was so devastated. I was so devastated. I had worked so hard to try to, come back from my injury in the beginning of the season, and to have that happen, it was heartbreaking. It was really, really heartbreaking.
I think anytime you get injured, it's the worst. But when it's your senior year, because when you're an underclassman, you're still not technically the leader of the team. It's not really your team yet. And this was your team now. And to not be able to do it, that's the most frustrating thing.
It was super frustrating.
Now, how many meets did you miss before the previous injury or after the previous injury?
Quite a bit. I don't have the exact number, but I missed a good middle section of the season. A good middle section, which was a lot. It was a lot of races in there in that middle section. I did the first couple meets and then missed the middle and then came back towards the end. And like I said, I was hitting a good stride right before states in training and stuff. But that Osborndale, that ingrown branch, I tell you.
Right. So now talk about this. The season comes to an end. And you girls have your senior banquet. I mean, was that sentimental too? It's your last banquet. And I believe you were honored that night too, right?
Yes,
with an individual award.
Yes. When anything comes to an end, Derby is a tight-knit community. And we're a tight-knit school. There's not many people in the school. So everybody knows everybody. And we take pride in everything we do and every sport that we do. And that's why, that brings me here today. I was so honored and so, felt so overwhelmed with the sentimental value of what I had done for the 4 years at Derby High School. It was nice. It was nice. It was sad. I was sad. I was especially sad and still kind of ticked off that I didn't get to run that last meet, and that bothered me. But it was a chapter that was ending, and it is sad. It is sad.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, that same year, your senior year, Muzz kind of implemented an indoor track program. Did you run that year? Were you able to run that year?
No, I didn't run that year. I only did outdoor. for my last year.
So you weren't a part of
that.
No, but
I wasn't part of the indoor.
Right. Did you just figure you wanted to get healthy for track?
Right.
And one of the things too, like track was your secondary sport for you, but now this gave you an opportunity to run one last time. So that works out because cross country, you get hurt and you're all frustrated and down. But now you got the second chance to kind of, do something. So talk about your senior year of track. Because again, it was another good year.
It was. Right. It was a very good year. And I came back with a vengeance. I did very well, especially in the mile that year, better than the 2 mile. And I would throw in a half mile on occasion in my senior year too, that I would do. And sometimes I would still run with the boys and try to beat a boy. It was the drive there, like I can do it. And I remember being very happy my senior year that I was able to run again and there wasn't going to be a tree branch in my way. And I did well.
Funny story, Sarah, and none of us ever told you this. And I'm not going to mention his name. Maybe I'll mention it off here. But I remember one time, it was some downtime before practice, and one of the boys on the team was like, "Oh, I hate Sarah." And we're like, "You hate Sarah? Why do you hate Sarah?" And he's like, "I just do." And we're like, "Well, why do you hate her?" And he goes, "Because she always tries to compete with me, and I always have to push it up." And he was basically saying he didn't want to lose to you.
That's it. I have to push the boys.
Right. So he was saying how much he hated you because you were always pushing him. But that has to be, in a way, a compliment to you because it shows that he didn't dislike you personally. He disliked you,
pushing.
Professionally.
Yes.
Right. So
I would take pride in that. I would challenge. I would challenge anyone, a boy, girl, whoever, freshman, sophomore, senior. You know what? I wanted to always be better. And I wanted to make everybody else better. And I know that it's in people to push themselves. You can push yourself further than what you think you can. And I think a lot of people just give in. And I wanted to make my teammates and everybody that surrounded me better. So if that meant challenging whoever, okay, I'm going to throw you out there and let's see. Let's talk. Walk the walk. Let's go.
Right. Let me ask you this. Who who were some of the runners that you ran with or that you might have saw run too that stand out to you? Like, who would you say were some of the best runners you kind of ran with as teammates, not so much against somebody?
Oh, wow, there were so many. I would have to say April Mermina and Christine Froley
Right.
were really, really outstanding runners for me in the cross country area. Kelly Byram was also really, really excellent runner. In track, I always enjoyed watching Jamal Baskins run those
Right.
hurdles.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good.
Right.
Eddie Solis.
Yeah.
Who can beat Eddie Solis?
Right. I know that
just-
was always,
He was
the
just a
one.
naturally gifted. This was natural. Again, naturally gifted and ran with such ease that I would look at him and be like, he's not even breaking a sweat. I don't even understand how that is possible.
But, we talked about how you would get mad at Muzz with those workouts. Eddie would get very frustrated with Muzz at those workouts. And after every track season, he'd say, I'm not coming back next year.
I know. And then he'd be back.
Yeah, he'd be back. Yep. So, Muzz was frustrated in him, but it made Eddie a better runner, too.
Yes, that's true. That is true. But yeah, I enjoyed just watching him just go around, another distance runner, go around and look like he wasn't even pushing. And I'm like, gosh, how does he make it look so easy? I was
Right.
very jealous. Very, very jealous.
Right. And you obviously didn't get to see her a lot because you were always running. She was doing the weight events. But
Diane.
How good was Diane Paquet?
Listen, most track meets, and I'm assuming they're kind of run the same. The throwing events and everything that Diane did, she was in a different area.
Yeah.
We would run, and as soon as I was done, I'd be like, did Diane go yet? Did Diane go yet? And we would run up to wherever Diane was throwing. And amazing athlete, amazing person. All the Paques, they're amazing people in general. I enjoyed watching both Mike and her go, and John with football, and he also did track too. But Diane, we took pride in Diane. Diane's like one of a kind.
Right.
So it was good to watch her.
You touched on it a little bit, and we've been joking about him and, his crazy roots and everything like this. But just tell me, like, as somebody who's an adult now, how much did Joe Mazzanti impact you as your coach and as a person in general?
Looking back on it, Muzz plays a huge part on who I am. And he's a superb guy who really took a part in raising part of me.
Right.
And everything that I do even today, somehow he has a part in that. And awesome individual. And I can't say enough about him and what he's done for me and Derby cross country in general. And the pride he takes is just, it's so nice to see that, he still has that in him to keep programs alive. Because I read up on his Facebooks all the time and his writings on social media. And it keeps everybody else involved that's been in the past.
Right.
It's nice to see the write-ups that Muzz does. It keeps me like still in the groove of knowing who's out there. The girls winning last year cross country, I got so warmed up about that, such pride that they finally did it. And Muzz keeps all of that going.
Right.
And you always need one of those people in the community that keep that alive, because it's important. You always have to remember where you came from.
Exactly.
So yeah, Muzz has impacted me tremendously, and he's a big part of who I am, even as an adult.
Right. So let me ask you this, too. The year you got out of high school, your first year out, would be his final season as cross-country coach. Nobody really saw it coming. He kind of announced it at the banquet. I mean, you had just probably finished your first year of college, but were you shocked when you heard about it? And, I mean, do you remember who had told you and stuff?
I don't remember who told me. I believe I was on a college break and I came home. It might have been my mother. Yes, I was shocked. This was Muzz's life. And
Right.
I was like, whoa, wow. Kind of like, wow, wonder what happened. You know, I was worried. Like,
Right.
did something happen? Because he just took such pride in
Right.
all of us and all of our accomplishments. And he was such a wonderful guy that to like want to lift us up all the time. So it was surprising. It was surprising when he let go.
Right. You know, you talk about competing against your brothers.
Yeah.
You guys made each other better.
Yeah,
Your brother Steve was fortunate enough to be part of the state championship team his senior year in
absolutely.
baseball. Tell me, just, you know, as somebody who's very close with him, how special that was for you to see that happen for him.
Listen, my brother Steven, he also had a drive in him. And when I went to that stadium to see him play that last championship game in 96, again, it was like I was out on that field with him. And we were all out on that field. And when they won, I just wept with my mother and just hugged my mother. It was like, it
Right.
was such an emotional moment. I was so happy for him, so happy for Derby. And he worked hard in both basketball and baseball. And, you know, baseball was probably more his niche. And he pitched awesome that year and he played center field. It was just an overwhelmingly joyous moment for all of us.
Right.
So it
And I
was
believe
nice.
he's coaching.
He is. He
Right.
is the head coach of Montville High School baseball right now. So again, it's in his blood and his passion. And he has taken everything that I think he's learned through his coaches through the years, Coach D and Coach Fay and
Right.
Coach Borzelli had him in basketball. I think everything he
Right.
takes a piece from each of them. And then he also played in college too at Eastern. He
Right.
takes a piece from everybody, all the coaches, and he brings it to his kids. And, you know, he takes pride in them and he brings a sense of Derby to his high
Right.
school. So it's nice. It's nice to see.
Right. So let me ask you this.
But I don't like the orange and black they wear.
No.
Have to do the red and white. Come on, Steve.
You know, it's funny you brought that up, and you're good at letting me segue into.
Yeah.
You've got your jacket on from the
I
cross
do.
country. It still fits. So
Still fits.
So that shows.
Got my
you're
high school
shows you're
pride
still-
on.
Shows you're still in shape. And
Yeah.
you know, I never did ask you this, but I used to always hear your mother call you it, and now I see the name on it. So I'm
Yeah.
going to finally ask, how'd you get the nickname Gooch?
Gooch. That was given to me by my grandfather. He was a unique man. He used to hold each one grandkid for the first time, and
Right.
whatever name came out of his mouth was your nickname. And he held me for the first time, looked down at me, he goes, Sarah Gooch. And then all of a sudden my family just started calling me Gooch. And the funny thing is, you know, I used to not really pay attention, especially to my mom. And, you know, one day she came into school and there was a group of us and she wanted to get my attention. And she kept calling, Sarah, Sarah, Sarah. I guess apparently I wasn't turning around. And then finally I hear, Gooch. And I turn around and I'm like, oh, hi, Mom. What do you want? So it was just a way to kind of get my attention quickly, so that it just kind of stuck with me. And my family, the Stonoha side, still calls me Gooch to this day. They do not call me Sarah. It's Gooch.
So let me ask you, were you the bully that was always bothering Arnold on different sports?
I did get that reference a few times, but no.
So let me ask you this now as a mother.
Yes.
Do your kids, I mean, do you ever run with your kids anywhere? Are they into running at all?
I appreciate you asking me this question because, you know, my son goes to St. Joseph's High in Trumbull. He is going out for basketball this season. He's not much of a runner.
Right.
He's a bigger, stockier kid.
Right.
But my daughter, however, she's in second grade now. She just started second grade. The end of first grade, she came home one day and said, Mom, Mrs. Hillman wrote you a letter about me. And I'm like, okay, is it good, bad, Reagan? Like, what is it about? She goes, no, you just need to read it. So I take it out.
Yeah.
It says, Dear Sarah, I just want to make you aware that I think Reagan should be a runner one day. Her stride was just so unbelievable, and she ran with such ease. I'm just saying running should be in her future. I I just had this big grin on my face.
Right.
And I was like, you know what, Ray? You know what this says? And she read it. And she's like, yeah, Mom, maybe I could be a runner like you. I said, darn Skippy, I hope you are. But she probably won't be a Red Raider because I'm comfortably in Shelton. So she'll be a Gale. I'm sorry.
Is that a little rough for you? Or
yes.
Right.
Yeah, I'll have to root on the orange and black. It's just kind of grit and bear it, unless she chooses to go to St. Joseph's. But, hopefully she'll follow in my footsteps because she seems to run with ease.
Right.
And have just a knack for it. And she's blessed with a lot longer legs than I. So we shall see.
Right.
Keep an eye on her. She's not going to be in high school till 2023, but it'll go quicker than what we think.
It does.
So,
you touched on it briefly about the girls cross country
Yeah.
team winning the state title, how much you were overjoyed with that. What do you think about the running program that they've had for so many years now at Derby? I mean, do you kind of get jealous and say, God, where was this when I was a kid?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I wish it existed when I was around in my younger years. I think it would have elevated my running skills and just got me prepared longer term for my high school career. Jenny Ames has done a wonderful job. I'm envious that it exists now. I think it's great, and the way the running programs have elevated in Derby makes me proud. It makes me proud, and I keep an eye on them. They may not think a lot of people keep an eye on them, but
Right.
we do. We do. Everybody that used to run and everybody that's in the town, we take pride. And you know what? A lot of people may not show up to track and cross country meets, but there are people that read and there are people that know. And I want to let them know that us past runners, we take pride in what they've done.
Right.
Absolutely.
And Mike Gazzo, who has a lot to do with that running program, he's always there every Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
5:00, letting the kids run the river walk. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a commitment because it's
It
a guy
is.
who lives in Cheshire and he comes every, Sunday for these kids. And I mean, that's the thing too. When you have people that are willing to put the time in, that just makes it easier for
Yes.
the young kids who are running.
Yes, absolutely. It takes a village, Mike. It takes a village, and there's got to be people that are committed to elevating these kids. And I'm thankful for every bit of everyone that volunteers and puts energy and effort into elevating them, and because it can give kids confidence and become productive adults. It teaches a good value
Right.
in everything of how hard work can pay off, and that's an important lesson.
Right. 2 final questions.
Yeah.
Number 1, what has been the most rewarding thing that you've gotten out of running? And number 2, what advice would you give to anybody who not only wants to run, but just wants to excel in something athletically or, academically? What would your advice be
Advice?
to them?
Well, let's start with question number 1 that you asked me. I would say the best thing that I've got out of running in my running career is just never give up attitude. It's
Right.
never, never, never give up. And it really it gave me confidence in
Right.
myself when you finish a race that you think you can't finish. And that happens in life. You may be thrown a curveball in life,
Right.
and you just have to take it and push through it. And at the end of it, know that you can do it, that you can finish.
Right.
Because life is always going to throw you stuff that you're not expecting.
Right.
So. And secondly, I would say advice. I would say when you think your chips are down, just realize that tomorrow's a new day. There's always
Right.
another race. And to keep moving forward and try to just keep improving. Don't try to get yourself wrapped up in too much of, winning or losing. Just go out there, try your best. You could always do better, but always give it your 100% all. Because there's always people that are always counting on you. And, just try your best. Try your best always. always. And be kind. Be
Right.
kind to your teammates. Cheer them on. Even if it's a gal or a guy that you don't really like on a personal level. But if they're on your team, give it a try to cheer them on, because it helps everybody just bond, and then you'll have relationships that carry through
Right.
for a lifetime, and that's priceless. That's priceless.
Exactly.
So
Well, Sarah, it's been well over 20 years. Hard to believe it's been that long. But,
I'm old now.
but I really do believe in, again, I didn't see some of the 1988, 89 girls who
Yeah.
ran, but, and the success the program is having right now is tremendous. But I always look at, where cross-country girls started, and I always think of people like you, Chris Froley, Heather Kovacs, all these April Mina,
yeah.
all these girls. And I really believe you deserve to be mentioned in that list, because when I think of that program and how it got developed and how it got off the ground and kept going, you deserve as much credit as anyone. And I really do applaud you. And I thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And that was Sarah Stonoha, former cross-country and track runner for Derby Girls. For Valley Sports Rewind, I'm Mike Cannici saying goodbye, everyone.